Again, very often you see this thinking that the past determines the present, not just influences the present, but determines the present and the future. So people say things like, no, about Russia, not Ukraine, that, for hundreds of years they lived in an autocratic system, so they just can't have a democracy. And Ukraine shows us this is not true. They lived under the same Tsarist autocracy, they lived under the same Soviet autocracy, and they had even worse opening conditions than the Russian Federation because they didn't have the natural resources of Russia. So it's a much poorer country, actually. And they chose differently. They chose to have a liberal democracy and fought repeatedly to protect it. Which means that even if you come from hundreds of years of autocracy, you can still choose democracy. And this is, I think, one of the things that infuriates Putin about Ukraine. Because it's like a poster in the face of the Russians that, look, you can choose differently. Because, if the only example they had, I don't know, was the Netherlands or Sweden, then it could easily be excused that, Sweden had a completely different history than Russia. So it's inapplicable to us. But when people at Moscow look at Kyiv, they should ask themselves, hey, if they can do it, why can't we? And it's the same thing with China and Taiwan. That you have these theories that, something in Chinese civilization or Chinese history or whatever just prevents the establishment of a democracy in China. So how do you explain Taiwan? Even according to the Chinese, it's the same people, it's the same country, it's the same history, it's the same language. So how could they choose differently? And this is a very important, from a historical perspective, to understand that history is extremely important. It influences the present. It never determines the present and the future. You always have choice.